You can't stop thinking about them because your soul remembers what your mind forgets. It's not obsession, it's a spiritual echo. They awaken something in you, growth, healing truth. You're not meant to hold on forever, but to transform. This connection isn't punishment, it's purpose. Honor it, then release it. You meet someone, and from the very first moment, they're unforgettable. Not just attractive or interesting, but unforgettable in a way that haunts you. They show up in your dreams, in the silence between songs, in the stillness of your thoughts. Even when you try to move on, they're still there, lingering like a soft echo in your soul. This isn't just emotional memory. It's a spiritual echo, the kind of imprint that doesn't fade with time because it was never about time to begin with. Spiritual echoes happen when two souls recognize each other beyond the physical. It's a frequency match. You feel like you've known them longer than you actually have, maybe lifetimes longer. Something in your chest says this matters, even if your mind has no proof, and that's the mystery of it. It's not logical. You can't intellectualize it. You just feel it, and that feeling doesn't ask for permission. It floods in. Sometimes the person you can't stop thinking about isn't even in your life anymore. Maybe they walked away. Maybe it ended badly. Maybe it never really began. And yet, there they are in your mind, in your energy field, in your meditations. You start questioning yourself, why can't I let go? What does this mean? Is something wrong with me? But what if you're not broken? What if you're just spiritually sensitive enough to hear the echo others ignore? They touch something eternal in you. And because of that, they don't just leave when circumstances change. Their presence marked a shift in your soul's landscape. The mind tries to find reasons: chemistry, trauma bonding, unfinished business. But the heart knows this is deeper. You don't miss the person. You miss what they unlocked in you. Maybe they awakened a version of yourself you hadn't met yet. A version that was buried beneath fear, numbness, or routine. Thinking about them isn't always about wanting them back. It's often about trying to understand the activation they triggered. It's about the energy that still ripples through you because of one conversation, one glance, one goodbye. That energy doesn't leave until it has taught you what it came to teach. And here's the paradox. Spiritual echoes aren't always meant to pull you back to someone. Sometimes they're meant to pull you forward into yourself, into healing, into truth. The person might have just been a vessel, a temporary carrier of the message your soul needed. Once you get the message, the echo quiets down. But until then, it lingers not to torture you, but to wake you. So if they're still in your thoughts, maybe it's not because you're stuck. Maybe it's because your spirit remembers something your mind hasn't decoded yet. Listen to that echo. Not to chase the past, but to find the piece of yourself it's trying to lead you to. You try to move on. You delete the pictures, unfollow their profile, fill your days with noise and distraction. But somehow their energy clings to you like invisible thread. It's not just memories you're fighting, it's something deeper, more stubborn. This is the feeling of unfinished energetic ties, and it doesn't go away just because you want it to. We form energetic bonds with people through time, emotion, intimacy, and intention. Every deep conversation, every vulnerable moment, every glance that lingered too long, these create subtle cords between souls. Most of these dissolve naturally when the connection fades, but some stay behind, still charged with emotion, still holding pieces of us. That's what makes it so hard to forget certain people. You're not just missing them, you're still connected to them on an unseen level. These energetic ties don't always reflect a healthy bond. Sometimes they're born from trauma, confusion, or unresolved feelings. Sometimes one person let go physically, but never closed the energy loop. So it lingers. It loops in your mind. They keep showing up in your thoughts, not because you're obsessed or weak, but because the exchange wasn't complete. There was no real closure, just an abrupt end or worse, silence. And when the physical ending doesn't match the emotional depth, the soul keeps searching for resolution. That's why it hurts long after they're gone. You're not just healing from a breakup, you're disentangling energy that became part of you. These ties live in your body, in your chest, your gut, your nervous system. They respond to triggers you don't even realize. A song, a scent, a street you both walked, suddenly their energy is back, vivid as ever. You feel crazy for still caring, but it's not about logic. It's about energy that hasn't been released. You don't need them to come back to find peace. What you need is energetic closure. That means facing what was left unsaid, unprocessed, unhealed. It means calling your energy back to yourself, piece by piece. not to erase them, but to free yourself from the weight of a story that was never finished. Sometimes that means writing the letter you'll never send. Sometimes it means having the hard conversation with them or just with your own heart. And sometimes the tie remains because you haven't yet accepted the lesson. The relationship was part of your soul curriculum. Until the wisdom is integrated, the tie stays active not to punish you, but to guide you. It's not about going back, it's about going deeper. You don't have to carry their energy forever. You just have to honor what it taught you. When a connection ends physically but stays spiritually, it's a sign that your healing isn't finished. Not because you're behind, but because something sacred still needs your attention. You're not stuck, you're being asked to finish what was started on a soul level. There are people you meet who don't just enter your life, they disrupt it. Not in a chaotic, destructive way, but in a way that shakes something deep inside you. You find yourself thinking differently, feeling more deeply, questioning things you never questioned before. You might even feel like your whole sense of self is breaking apart. But what's really happening is this: they've triggered your awakening. It's rarely comfortable. Awakening sounds beautiful in theory, but in practice it can be disorienting. When someone triggers that process, they become more than just a person. You experience them as a mirror, a catalyst, a spiritual alarm clock. Their presence lights up parts of you that had been asleep. Old wounds resurface. Hidden truths demand attention. You feel pulled towards something greater, but you're also unsure of who you are anymore. That's the nature of awakening. It deconstructs the version of you that was built on survival, conformity, or fear, and invites you into who you really are. The person who triggers this isn't always a soulmate in the romantic sense. Sometimes it's a short-lived connection, a glance, a conversation, a person who barely stayed long, but left an impact so deep it changed the trajectory of your life. You might not even understand why they affected you so much, but it's not about time. It's about resonance. Their energy collided with yours in just the right way to ignite your spiritual unfolding. They often challenge you. They reflect back your shadows, the insecurities you hide, the patterns you repeat, the truth you've avoided. That reflection can be uncomfortable, even painful, but it's also sacred, because once you've seen yourself clearly, you can't unsee it. They weren't placed in your life to complete you. They were there to reveal the parts of you you've abandoned. Awakening can feel like falling apart, but really it's falling into alignment. And the person who triggered it, they might not walk the journey with you. Sometimes their only role was to open the door. That's what makes these connections so difficult to release. They changed you. You grieve not only the person, but the shift they brought. You associate your growth with their presence, but their purpose wasn't permanence, it was initiation. You may never get the closure you think you need from them. You may never fully understand why they affected you the way they did, but the point isn't them. The point is you. They served their role as a spiritual catalyst. Now the work is yours to keep awakening, to keep expanding, to keep becoming. You don't forget someone who woke you up, not because you're holding on, but because you're living in the truth they helped uncover. They touched your soul not to stay, but to set it on fire. And that fire, it was never about them. It was always yours. Some people come into your life and feel instantly familiar, as if you've known them long before you actually met. There's an unspoken connection, a recognition that goes deeper than words. Being around them feels intense, magnetic, even unsettling. That's because they aren't just any connection, they are your mirror soul. They reflect you back to yourself in ways you never expected, wanted, or were ready for. Mirror souls aren't here to comfort you. They're here to reveal you. When you're around them, you're forced to confront parts of yourself that you've kept buried, your insecurities, your fears, your unresolved wounds. But they also reflect the beauty, the depth, the potential you've forgotten. It's a double-edged gift. They show you the light and the shadow, often in the same breath, and the emotional charge that comes with that can be overwhelming. When you look at them, it's like looking into a spiritual mirror. Their actions trigger you not because they're wrong, but because they activate dormant truths inside you. You start noticing patterns why you react the way you do, where you've been performing instead of living authentically, what parts of yourself you've rejected. It's rarely comfortable, but it's always transformative. That's what mirror souls do. They break the illusion. There can be intense attraction in these connections, but also just as much resistance. You may feel deeply drawn to them, yet terrified of what being close to them brings out in you. You might argue more than you connect. You might pull away even as you long for them. That push and pull is the friction of growth, the ego meeting its limits, the soul asking for more than surface-level comfort. Sometimes you'll love them deeply, but the relationship won't last. That's because their role isn't always to stay. Their presence serves as a wake-up call, an invitation to finally meet yourself. They might appear during a critical turning point in your life, when you're on the verge of evolution but afraid to take the leap. Their existence nudges you, sometimes shoves you into that transformation. They may not even realize how much they're impacting you. That's another layer of the mirror. It's not always a shared awareness. You might be seeing everything they reflect in you while they remain oblivious. And that can hurt. But it's also part of the path. Their job isn't to fix you or stay loyal to your narrative. Their role is to illuminate. When a mirror soul enters your life, everything becomes clear and messy. You feel stripped down to your essence, and in that rawness, you discover who you really are. You stop pretending. You stop settling. You start evolving. Whether they stay or leave, the reflection remains. They change you not by loving you in a perfect way, but by revealing the version of yourself you were always meant to become. Timing isn't always comfortable or convenient. It doesn't follow our plans or expectations. It disrupts, reroutes, and awakens. It places people on your path not to complete you, but to prepare you for growth, for truth, for alignment. Sometimes the people who come at the wrong time are exactly right for your evolution. Their presence marks a turning point. And long after they leave, your soul still remembers that moment of shift. When you meet someone through divine timing, it feels different. The connection may come fast with no logical build-up. It might feel larger than life, difficult to explain. You feel like you've met for a reason, and that reason keeps echoing through your thoughts. You might obsessively replay conversations, analyze everything they said or didn't say, wonder what it meant. But this isn't about the person, it's about what their arrival awakened inside you. They may have shown you a version of love, of connection, of honesty that you hadn't allowed yourself to believe in. Or they may have exposed a wound you hadn't noticed before, a pattern, a fear, a longing. Divine timing brings these encounters to light not to trap you in longing, but to shake you out of autopilot, to spark a fire, to initiate something inside you. It's easy to confuse this kind of energy with romantic obsession because the feelings are so intense, so persistent, but obsession chases validation. Divine timing invites reflection. You don't need them to validate your worth. What you need is to understand what they mirrored back to you and why it hits so deeply. This is soul work, not just heartache. Sometimes you're not meant to be with them. Sometimes they enter your life to show you who you are becoming, not who you should hold on to. The pain of their absence isn't a sign you need them back. It's a sign that your spirit has been activated. You're being asked to look within, not to spiral outward. You're not haunted by their memory. You're haunted by the change they sparked. That's what divine timing does. It delivers people at moments when your soul is ready to evolve, even if your conscious mind isn't. And that evolution can feel like obsession because something inside you is moving, stirring, demanding to be seen. It's not about going back to them. It's about moving forward with what their presence taught you. The connection wasn't random. It was sacred. Not permanent, but purposeful. Some people enter your life and stir something so deep that you can't quite explain it. The connection feels heavy, intense, and emotionally charged from the very beginning. It might be passionate, painful, or both, but either way, it leaves a mark. These are often the signs of a karmic cycle at play. You're not just meeting someone new, you're meeting a soul your spirit has known before. Karmic cycles are not punishments. They are invitations. They bring unresolved energy from past lives or earlier stages of your current life into the present moment to be healed, understood, and finally closed. That's why these relationships feel urgent and consuming. There's a sense of unfinished business woven into the connection, a sense that something needs to happen, something needs to be learned or released. And until that happens, the bond keeps looping mentally, emotionally, energetically. When you're caught in a karmic cycle with someone, everything feels magnified. The highs are euphoric, the lows are devastating. You may try to walk away only to feel pulled back in. You may think you've let go, but they still show up in your thoughts, in your dreams, in moments of silence. This is not random. This is the universe trying to show you something that your ego may not want to face. These cycles often come with themes: abandonment, control, betrayal, self-worth. Whatever your soul has been carrying, whatever wound you've been repeating lifetime after lifetime, shows up again in this connection, asking to be healed. And the person involved isn't your enemy. They're your mirror, your teacher, your soul contract. They agreed before this life to play that role for you, just as you may be playing one for them. That's why the connection feels so important, even if it's chaotic or painful. Your soul is trying to finish the story, but finishing the story doesn't always mean staying together. In fact, karmic cycles are rarely about permanence. They are about clearing. Once the lesson is learned, once the pattern is acknowledged, the intensity often fades, not because the connection wasn't real, but because its purpose has been fulfilled. Letting go of a karmic connection can feel like tearing off a part of yourself. You grieve not just the person, but the soul-level tie that has defined your emotional world for so long. And yet, true closure comes not from clinging, but from clarity. Clarity about what this soul came to teach you and how you grew through the process. That growth is the point. The person was a vessel for it. Sometimes the karmic cycle is internal. The other person may no longer be present, but the energy lives on in your choices, your reactions, your fears. Completing the cycle means recognizing those patterns and choosing differently. It means forgiving, releasing, and reclaiming your energy, not because you've stopped caring, but because you finally understood. The cycle ends not with revenge or reunion, but with wisdom. There are times when no matter how much time passes, how much distance you create, or how logically you try to move on, someone's energy still lingers. It's like they're woven into your thoughts, your emotions, even your intuition. You feel them when you're alone. You sense them in your dreams. Their presence seems to interrupt your healing, not just emotionally, but spiritually. This is what happens when spiritual interference is at play. Spiritual interference doesn't mean someone is controlling you or intentionally affecting your energy. It means that the connection you shared left an energetic imprint strong enough to keep activating certain parts of your consciousness. It happens most often with deep soul ties, connections built not just on shared time, but shared vibration. These are the people who get into your energy field because your souls recognize each other on a level deeper than the mind could understand. But when there's no closure, when there's emotional turbulence, or when the connection ends with confusion, that energetic bond can stay open. And when it's open, it creates interference. You might think you're over them, but you still feel pulled in directions that don't make sense. You catch yourself replaying scenarios, trying to decode messages, wondering if you're crazy for still feeling connected. You're not. What you're feeling is an unsealed energetic loop. This kind of interference shows up subtly. You might feel emotionally drained after thinking about them. You might notice your mood shifting suddenly for no clear reason. You might even feel physical sensations, tension in the chest, restlessness, tightness in the stomach whenever they come to mind. That's not coincidence. That's energy in motion, unresolved and unfinished, still alive in your field. Sometimes interference happens because that person is thinking about you too. Energy travels and strong connections can create a feedback loop, especially when both people are emotionally reactive or energetically sensitive. Other times, it's not about them at all. It's about the version of you that they activated. You're not tied to the person. You're tied to the emotions, the dreams, the identity you built around that connection. Spiritual interference is often misunderstood as fate or destiny. It's tempting to believe that constant thoughts or signs mean you're meant to be together. But in reality, interference is more often a sign that healing is incomplete. The soul is trying to clear space, and the interference is a signal that something needs to be resolved, reclaimed, or released. To clear spiritual interference, you don't need to confront the other person. You need to confront yourself. What part of you is still waiting? What part is still holding on to hope, pain, or fantasy? The interference ends when your energy is brought back into alignment, not with the past, but with your truth. Until then, that spiritual noise will keep showing up, not to torment you, but to call you back to your center. The interference isn't here to confuse you. It's here to wake you. There are times when no matter how much time passes, how much distance you create, or how logically you try to move on, someone's energy still lingers. It's like they're woven into your thoughts, your emotions, even your intuition. You feel them when you're alone. You sense them in your dreams. Their presence seems to interrupt your healing, not just emotionally, but spiritually. This is what happens when spiritual interference is at play. Spiritual interference doesn't mean someone is controlling you or intentionally affecting your energy. It means that the connection you shared left an energetic imprint strong enough to keep activating certain parts of your consciousness. It happens most often with deep soul ties connections built not just on shared time, but shared vibration. These are the people who get into your energy field because your souls recognize each other on a level deeper than the mind could understand. But when there's no closure, when there's emotional turbulence, or when the connection ends with confusion, that energetic bond can stay open. And when it's open, it creates interference. You might think you're over them, but you still feel pulled in directions that don't make sense. You catch yourself replaying scenarios, trying to decode messages, wondering if you're crazy for still feeling connected. You're not. What you're feeling is an unsealed energetic loop. This kind of interference shows up subtly. You might feel emotionally drained after thinking about them. You might notice your mood shifting suddenly for no clear reason. You might even feel physical sensations, tension in the chest, restlessness, tightness in the stomach whenever they come to mind. That's not coincidence. That's energy in motion, unresolved and unfinished, still alive in your field. Sometimes interference happens because that person is thinking about you too. Energy travels and strong connections can create a feedback loop, especially when both people are emotionally reactive or energetically sensitive. Other times, it's not about them at all. It's about the version of you that they activated. You're not tied to the person. You're tied to the emotions, the dreams, the identity you built around that connection. Spiritual interference is often misunderstood as fate or destiny. It's tempting to believe that constant thoughts or signs mean you're meant to be together. But in reality, interference is more often a sign that healing is incomplete. The soul is trying to clear space, and the interference is a signal that something needs to be resolved, reclaimed, or released. To clear spiritual interference, you don't need to confront the other person. You need to confront yourself. What part of you is still waiting? What part is still holding on to hope, pain, or fantasy? The interference ends when your energy is brought back into alignment, not with the past, but with your truth. Until then, that spiritual noise will keep showing up. Not to torment you, but to call you back to your center. The interference isn't here to confuse you. It's here to wake you. There are moments in life when a connection feels so profound, so intense, that it almost seems like fate has brought two souls together. The chemistry is undeniable, the bond is magnetic, and everything about the relationship feels significant. In these moments, it's easy to convince yourself that this connection was meant to last, that it's your destiny to be with this person forever. But sometimes the deeper truth is that the connection wasn't meant to keep you attached, it was meant to transform you. We often think of relationships as attachments, as something that we hold on to for stability, security, or comfort. The truth, however, is that some connections come into our lives not to anchor us in place, but to shake us awake, to push us into new territory, and to force us to grow. These relationships aren't designed to be permanent. Instead, they are meant to bring us through an intense transformation, a spiritual, emotional, or psychological evolution that can only happen through this particular supposed to keep. The mind often resists change, especially when it's tied to something that feels emotionally important. But the truth is, attachment doesn't honor the work your soul is trying to do. Attachment locks you into a cycle of wanting things to stay the same, while transformation demands movement, evolution, and letting go. When you are meant to transform, clinging to the relationship only keeps you stuck in a phase of your life that you've outgrown. The person may leave or the connection may fade, but the purpose they serve remains. The transformation stays with you. This doesn't mean the relationship wasn't real or meaningful. It doesn't mean you didn't experience something deep. It simply means that its purpose was never to be permanent. It was meant to open a door, stir your soul, and help you evolve in a way you never would have without it. Whether or not the connection remains doesn't define its importance. The transformation you underwent because of it is the true gift. And as difficult as it may be, the key to finding peace with these connections is to stop trying to hold on to them. They weren't meant to attach to you in the way that we typically think of relationships. They were meant to evolve you. And once that transformation has begun, it will continue to unfold whether the person is by your side or not. The attachment fades when you realize that the relationship was never the destination. The transformation was. In the end, every significant connection we experience carries a deeper purpose beyond our immediate understanding. These relationships, whether fleeting or intense, challenge us to grow, evolve, and heal. They are not about attachment or possession, but about transformation, awakening us to new layers of ourselves, confronting unresolved wounds, and opening the door to a higher version of who we are meant to become. While it can be difficult to release what feels important, true peace comes when we understand that these connections are part of a larger spiritual journey. We're meant to learn, not to cling, and when we embrace the lessons, the soul moves forward, stronger and more aligned with its true path. Every relationship, every encounter is part of this divine unfolding, guiding us toward the next step in our evolution.